Oh, hello everybody. We're gonna give it a minute or two here to get a few more people to join, and we'll see how we do. Very nice. I see people coming in, which is lovely to see. Maybe drop in the chat where you're calling in from or where you're joining from. That'd be really interesting to know. Indianapolis, Roger. We have a few others that are coming in now as well, which is great. India, Cleveland. Very nice. California. A nice mix of people, which is exactly what we like to see. Vancouver, New York. Beautiful. Very, very nice. So as they come in, I'll just do a quick little intro, a quick little welcome. So yeah, first of all, thank you everybody for jumping on the webinar. So yeah, we're very, very happy to have Wilson from FernDesk here with us. So the whole, I suppose, concept here, what we're kind of doing here is talking about being an AI solopreneur. So I have a couple of slides here. I'll just share very quickly before I hand it over to the main man himself. But I can just bring them up here and show what's going on. So yeah, so the whole concept here is basically how to build a $1 million plus ARR business as a solo founder, which, as Wilson will explain in a few minutes, something he has done himself. So who better to learn from than someone who's been there and done it. So one thing I think to note at the moment, or one interesting trend that we're seeing, and we actually talk about quite a lot in the newsletter, is this idea of solo founded companies being on the rise. So if you look at any of the data from Carta, or there's loads of data points around this. We're getting more and more solo founded companies getting started. So you can see there this data from Carta shows that H125 more solo founders than ever, and that number has been steadily increasing over time. Similarly, this people are calling this the era of the bootstrapped solo founder. Which you could just see the share of startups with no VC funding and have a founder is just going up and up and up. So this is an amazing time basically to be a solo founder, and I would argue probably the first time in maybe startup history where being a solo founder can work as well as being a founder with or a company with multiple co-founders, and that's because of AI and Claude. So here's live footage of me asking Claude to build me a $1 billion business. But yeah, I think the thing here to think about, the thing to remember is that in the age of AI, like Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever your model of choices is basically your co-founder, and that's the way to think about it. So ultimately, like nowadays you have an ideal co-founder kind of in your pockets if you want to be an AI solopreneur, and we're seeing more and more stories of people spinning up huge businesses, doing tens or hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue, with maybe one employee and contractors and that kind of stuff. Which brings us to our friend Wilson. So Wilson here is a solopreneur. And I'm just going to let him tell his story. He's going to do a much better job than I will. Let me stop sharing here and I'll hand it over to you, Wilson.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And hello, everyone. Thanks a ton for tuning in. I do have a few slides, so let me share my screen and we'll take things from there. So let me know once you can see my screen. Darek?
Yeah, I can see it here. Yeah, we're all good.
Okay, perfect. My name is Wilson Wilson. Yes, that's Wilson twice before that question comes up in Q&A. And I'm super pumped to have all of you on with me today. I am a two-time SaaS founder. My first company, Senja, is now at over 1 million in ARR. And I'm on a journey to grow my second Ferndesk to 1 million as well. My first company, Senja, was a really, really interesting company. It was a freemium testimonial collection, management, and sharing tool. People could sign up, import their testimonials, or collect testimonials and add them to their website, their socials, and so on. And yeah, it was a super simple concept, yet we were able to grow to 1 million in ARR over 3.5 years. And that was done completely bootstrapped. So I did it alongside with my co-founder, Ollie, at the time. And we were mostly handling product support and growth pretty much by ourselves. We did have a few contractors that we worked with and some employees, but we never scaled past 3 or 4 employees. And at that time, AI tools, AI models, they were really in their infancy, right? They were barely useful, which brings me to today, Ferndesk. This is the company I am currently building, and I left my past company, my previous one rather, to solve an interesting problem that we had at Senja. We were shipping constantly, pushing out new products every single week. And because we were so small, we didn't have a support person or even another engineer. Our docs were just outdated constantly. And our support volume, it got wild at some point. We were getting hundreds of tickets every month. And normally you would delegate to an AI chatbot or something, but we weren't able to because our docs were so trash. And of course, that's what AI models are trained on. So Ferndesk is a help center. It never goes out of date, and it does so by connecting to your code base, your support tickets, your actual product, and all of that. And it uses all of that context to keep your docs updated and fresh. And this company, unlike my last one, is one I am building completely solo. I'm bootstrapped again. We don't have any investors or full-time employees. We do have contractors and interns, but mostly it's just me at the driving wheel. So let's talk about what we came here today for, which is AI. How can you build a business with AI as a solo founder? I think the core thing is just leverage, right? AI tools give you leverage like never before. Like Derek said, we're seeing so many solo founders now. And that's because one person all of a sudden can do the work of 2, 3, or even 4 people, not by spending so much more extra time or grinding harder, but by automating the small things, right? The repetitive things, the things that you could, in theory, do, but will just take forever to do. For us, we get tons of comments and tons of messages from customers who are just surprised that we're so early stage and that we've only been in business for a couple months now. Because, our product is really, really good. Our marketing looks really, really mature. And the reason why we've made so much progress is just because we're able to delegate so much to these AI agents. So how can you do this yourself? I have split out our talk or our presentation today into 2 sections. First of all, the foundations of what it takes to get started. What are the core things you need to set up before you can get the full mileage out of these AI tools? And then I'm going to talk about 4 workflows that we're actually using at Ferndesk for automations that are helping us grow our business, backed by real data. And I'm excited to get started. So the very first thing I want to talk about is kind of a curveball, right? You didn't come here to talk about positioning or ICPs or messaging or any of that. That being said, before you can even think about automating some parts of your marketing and some parts of your engineering with AI, I highly, highly recommend that you take out some time, a day or even 2, to really sit down and define your ICP, your ideal customer profile. Why? Because AI agents, they thrive on context. The more context you give them, the more context that's available to them, the better your outputs will be. So defining your ICP and getting that into a really polished, really detailed doc is going to allow you to move so much faster, not just when you're building out new products, but when you're creating marketing, when you are designing or even are creating copy in your product or in your emails, whatever it is. It just gives you sharper outputs every single time. And for those who don't know, how do you do that? I'll talk about that in a bit, but I'd love to tell you about how we use our ICP ourselves in all of our coding workflows. So we've created this with Claude, we've saved it to our internal handbook, and it's available our skills in Claude Code, in Cursor, in Codex. And before we write any copy with AI, before we do any kind of work, product work, brainstorming, or so on, we always refer to our ICP or ask the agents to read the ICP. Now, how do you do that? Well, I have attached a prompt for you to go ahead and refine it after this call. But yeah, just go to go.frienders.com/myicp and copy and paste that prompt into Claude and chat with it. And after a few hours, minutes, you'll get something really robust that you can save as a skill. But the way that you do that manually is by starting with a couple customers that you already have. In our case, it was 3 of our early customers. And you walk backwards, you figure out like what it is that they share, what makes them such great customers, what frustrations they had, what patterns they had before they signed up. You use the exact words, the things that they say on calls or in messages to you. And you also define an anti-pattern to the ICP. So you define who these people are not. You define what kind of person wouldn't use your product. And then once you've done all of that, you save it to a skill or a document that all these AI agents can reference again and again and again. Now, on the technical side, there's one thing I highly, highly recommend you do, especially if you're a developer, and that's to spend a couple days really, really refining your logs, analytics, and error tracking. Now, why is that? Because those are the eyes and the ears that your AI agents will have when they're debugging issues or you're trying to get them to run much faster, fix problems in your code and so on. And I'll touch a little more on this in a bit, but for now, I'll leave it at that. So now let's talk about what we came here for. How do you actually grow your business with AI? What are some workflows that you can use to move faster, to save you a ton of time? And yeah, I'm going to share a couple real use cases that we have at FernDesk. I'm also going to share things across growth, across retention, and all these things are free to steal. So I have attached prompts, I have attached code examples and so on that you can grab after this call. And of course, Dara will share all of these things once we're done. So the very first thing I want to talk about is content mining. And why is that so cool? On the surface, it sounds boring, but honestly, this has been a game changer for us. So we at FernDesk post content where ICP hangs out. That is in communities, it's on Twitter, LinkedIn, X, our YouTube channel, our blog posts, all of that. And doing that is something that a lot of people struggle to do, not because they don't have the right ideas or they don't have anything to say, but because in the moment when you sit down and you're ready to actually write this content, nothing comes to you. Well, we have an agent that solves this for us, an agent that we've set up, and I'll talk about what it does in a second. So here's how it works. Our AI agent captures everything. It's connected to our sales calls. So it has access to our meeting note taker, which is in our case, Granola, but I believe other tools have MCPs and stuff that you can connect as well. It has access to our support inbox. It has access to our internal meeting notes, our product roadmap. It has access to even our product management tool. And every night it comes in and looks for signals. It looks for pain points, questions, objections from conversations. All of our ICP, all of the messages our ICP is sending us in our own words. And then it stores all of this into a database. So we're able to come in when we want to write content, and we can find things that are interesting, things that ordinarily we would have missed or have completely forgotten about in the moment. Not only does it do this, but it also connects to our social media scheduling tool. So it drafts cool ideas or sends cool ideas there so that every week we can sit down and get some content authored. And again, this is one more cool thing about using your ICP, because the agent has access to our ICP, it knows what's relevant. So we're able to use what it creates in our SEO, in our socials, in our onboarding docs, in our sales material. All of that is being fed throughout the business. So this is one thing that we've done that has made not just coming up with new products or coming up with new ideas or content easy, but it's made all our operations just so much more fun. So how can you set this up? Well, our agent runs on a cron schedule. It happens every single night. and it fills our database in Craft. I actually have it open here so you can see what this looks like. But yeah, it's constantly checking our granular notes. It's constantly checking for insights across our products, across our marketing, across the workflows that we've set up. And it's constantly looking for opportunities to write content. I even have my Typefully open. And if you look in my Typefully, you can see some of the drafts that the AI has put in. And I will come in, I'll polish these up, I'll tidy them, write them in my own voice. And then once I am done, I will hit schedule. And then, yeah, I have a steady stream of content rather that I ordinarily would not have had. Now, this runs on OpenClaw, but you can use whatever it is that runs on a schedule. I believe Claude Code now has schedules. Codex also has schedules. And there are 100 of these tools in the market. So just pick what works for you and what is super easy to set up. And yeah, I promise that dividends. Another really cool thing that we're doing is agentic SEO. So 4 months ago, we were getting roughly 5 or so clicks a day from Google. And in under 4 months, we've grown to 100 clicks a day on a brand new domain. And how did we do this? It was thanks to 2 levers. There was code first marketing and also using deep research agents for our SEO. I'm going to give a hot take. If you're using Framer, Webflow, or some other no-code tool, I highly, highly recommend you move your site to code. Why? Well, because code is the language of AI agents. Agents are able these days to not just write your code and design your site and even deploy it, but they're able to do it really, really well at a really, really high quality. There's no more drag and drop. There's no more fixing SEO or creating these random components. No, all of this is done with AI in a single prompt. And here's the great thing. It works even if you're non-technical. This was something that surprised me personally because I'm super technical. I didn't think that if you were completely non-technical, this would be something that you're able to do. But my co-founder, Ollie, who hates code and has vowed to never touch code, has moved his site or is moving some of his sites away from Framer and into code and deploying them end to end. So yeah, this is absolutely possible. And I highly recommend you do this. In our case, we were using Framer in the past for our website design. But in just a couple of days, we moved everything to a SvelteKit app, and now it runs like butter. So how can you grow your SEO or your search footprint with AI agents? We have 2 workflows set up. One is research and one is for drafting. So we have an agent that connects to the data for SEO and Ahrefs MCPs. So in case you don't know, data for SEO is, well, it's exactly its name, right? It's data for SEO. You can sign up, buy some credits, and then you can find all these stats that you would find in your typical SEO tools, backlinks, traffic, competitor keywords, all of that. But if you're not that technical, you can just sign up for an Ahrefs account. Now, with those MCP providers, our agents are able to actually investigate and find out what keywords our competitors are ranking for. They're able to do deep research and figure out what content gaps we have in our SEO strategy. And we're able to use all of this reporting rather, to create content that ranks on Google. We also have agents set up that actually go in and do deep scans on each competitor. So when we find a competitor, one that we haven't known in the past, we have an agent just go in, take their URL, and then query the Ahrefs and data for SEO MCPs, and find out all the information about this competitor that is relevant to us. And here's the cool thing. Again, it uses our ICP to function. So it's able to filter out things that aren't that relevant to us. It's able to filter out things that we ordinarily would not pursue. And we use all of this to create content briefs that are stellar. Now, another cool thing that we use research agents to do is to find unique spins on articles. Ranking on SEO isn't about publishing a ton of crappy content and praying and spraying that things rank. It's about publishing a few high quality posts or a few high quality pages that actually rank on Google, that actually have something interesting to share or show the people who come to read them. And we use AI to find that. So for example, we use AI deep research to find unique spins on data unique spins on articles that our competitors are writing, things that we ordinarily would not have thought about. And once done, we go back and forth with the AI, figure out what else we can add to the article, and then at the end of the day, write something that is just so interesting to read and obviously ranks on Google as well. And again, because you're using your ICP doc, everything that is written will be super high quality. It will be super relevant to the people you care about, your customers, the people you want more of. So now let's talk about another workflow. And this one is my favorite for obvious reasons. It's automatic
Just
documentation. But sorry, Dara, you have something
sorry,
to say.
just yeah, just before you move on, we have a question just in here from Anthony. He's just saying, can we hear more about the organic Google search query journey from new domain to multiple organic hits in around 4 months?
Sorry, come again.
So he's Anthony's looking to hear more about the organic Google search query journey from new domain to multiple organic hits in around 4 months. So he's just, I think, looking for maybe a little bit more context on that, if you have that to give.
Yeah, sure. So the way that we did it was, at least for bootstrapping from scratch, was we did the deep research, found out the easy top of funnel, or sorry, bottom of funnel keywords that we wanted to rank for. In our case, they were really simple things. So for example, competitor keywords like X alternative or X review or X pricing. There were also these smaller queries that most people went looking for. So for example, checklists, for example, how-to guides, these really, really targeted niche articles that our ICP was searching for. And then we created content for them, interesting content. It's a bit hard to look back in retrospect and say what that looked like over time. But one thing that we obviously did was use this is one thing I wanted to touch on actually. But we use our agent to also create internal links, validate our rich schema, make sure that all of our content is structurally sound so that it has a higher chance of ranking. Over time, another thing that I didn't mention is backlinks. Of course, you need to create a strong backlink profile. And because our content is so good, lots of people end up linking to us organically. We also have outreach going for backlinks. So we reach out to people who might, we reach out to publishers rather, who there's opportunity, right, to link to our content within. Let me know if I've answered that question well enough, or if there's something else you'd like me to touch on.
I think so. I'm sure if you didn't, Anthony will drop it in the chat and we can chat a little
Yeah,
bit more.
yeah.
No,
But
he
for
said awesome
myself,
answer. So awesome
yeah,
answer. So I think
thank
we're
you.
we're all good.
But yeah, if you've got any questions after this presentation, there is a Q&A. Yeah, and we'll go back and forth from there. Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
Jared I see Jared's question here as well. So yeah, we'll get to that at the end. We'll do a Q&A. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, yeah, just keep firing them in, and yeah, we'll keep track, and we'll get to them at the end. But yeah, back to the magic, Wilson.
Thank you. So now let's talk about automatic documentation. And obviously, this is a favorite of mine for obvious reasons. Now, as a solo founder, the worst thing that you can do is spend all of your time answering repetitive tickets. Now, obviously, if you are smaller, this wouldn't be such a big problem, obviously, because your volume is low. But docs are also critical, not just to um, retaining customers, but even to acquiring new customers. Often in our analytics, we see that our customers, before they even create an account, spend time, sometimes even hours, reading our docs before they actually sign up to the product, just so that they can get a sense of how the product actually works. And I'm sure you can relate to this if you've signed up to any moderately complex or technical product. People just want to know before they sign up, and your docs are a fantastic opportunity to do that. Now, if your problem is repetitive tickets and lots of support volume, then AI chatbots are usually a decent answer to that problem. But the problem is AI chatbots suck for obvious reasons. They give incorrect answers. They're not able to solve really niche edge case issues. And the reason why is just context, trash answers. And this is one of the reasons why I built Verandesk. At my last company, all our docs were outdated all the time. So even the thought of implementing an AI chatbot it didn't occur. But now with Verandesk, our help center stays up to date on autopilot. Our agent connects to your code base, your support tickets, your internal docs, all of that, and uses it to keep your help center up to date. Now, setting up something like this is easy, regardless of whether you use FernDesk or you use your own bespoke setup. You would create your docs, a beautiful help center on FernDesk, or something you code yourself, and that will become the source of truth for all your documentation to be queried by agents, to be queried by humans, and your users. Then in FernDesk, you would connect your support tool, your code base, your project management tool, and even your dashboard for automatic screenshots. In FernDesk, once we merge pull requests, our AI agent Fern automatically drafts our documentation for us. In fact, let me show you what that looks like in just a minute. So here I'm in my FernDesk account, and immediately you'll notice two things. For one thing, we've got our help center and all of our documentation. And of course, if we want to manually edit, customize, and make that look pretty, all of that is possible. But what makes FernDesk really special is Fern, the AI agent. And Fern does two things for us. When we merge a pull request, it automatically drafts our documentation updates. So for example, 2 weeks ago, we added new blocks to our help center, and Fern has written this for us. If that looks good, I can review it, see what she's written, and if I am content with her changes, I can go ahead and hit publish. What's more, she also constantly audits our help center. We've set up a schedule in settings so that Fern is able to give us audits weekly. And every week she tells us what people are searching for that hasn't been answered in our documentation. She's also telling us what we've shipped recently that hasn't been covered by our docs yet. So if these things look good, I can just click to draft it with Fern, and then Fern will immediately get to work. And then once I'm done, or once she's done rather, I'll get a notification for me to review her article. Of course, I can also message Fern ad hoc. So here's a task I created just before this call, and I asked Fern to go ahead and write a guide about how to create audits in FernDesk. And after a few minutes, she completed this, wrote a fantastic article after researching, browsing our code base, looking for other articles to link to, and all of this looks great. In fact, she's gone and in the new article she's created, even added automatic screenshots. So there are screenshots with annotations to call workflows. And if all of this looks good to me, I can go ahead and hit publish. Now, obviously, this is saving us a ton of time. And not only is our help center kept up to date, but because we have an AI agent, our AI agent is kept up to date as well. So even if you don't choose to use FernDesk, I highly recommend building something similar to this. You can probably set up a GitHub action or some cron schedule with Cloud Code or Codex to automatically review your pull requests and then turn all of this into documentation. Out of all the workflows here, this is one of those things that really pays dividends over time, especially as your business grows bigger and bigger. Now, let's talk about one more thing, and this is one of my favorite things as well, and it's automatic bug fixing. Now, as you get more and more customers and your product gets more and more complex, you're obviously going to have bugs. And unfortunately, a lot of these bugs are silent. Customers hit them, they feel them over and over again, but it's too much of a hassle to drop and contact support, so they just drop off. That's how things used to be. But now, with an automation that we've set up, we have something really cool going on. Now, when Sentry flags that there's an issue in our code, so a user hits an error path, it automatically triggers an agent, Codex in our case, to go inspect our logs and traces, and then use all of that context to generate a fix on the go. So all of this is done on the fly. It's fully automated. And of course, once the PR is ready to review, I can go in, review it on my phone even sometimes, and then merge if it looks good and it passes tests. Setting this up is super simple, and I highly recommend you do this, even though it is a bit technical. To make things easy for you, I've even saved this as a GitHub action, and you can find it at go.ferndesk.com/autofix. On this GitHub action, you'll be able to just copy and paste this entire workflow so that you're set up in minutes. So in our case, Sentry catches errors, sends a webhook to our GitHub action to trigger it, and then the agent is able to pull in logs and traces from Axiom, which is our logging provider, It's also able to pull in traces from Sentry, and all of our context is used for Codex to go in and instantly generate a fix. So yeah, this is one workflow that again has paid huge dividends for us, especially for debugging issues even before they hit support. There will often be times when we're in a support inbox and we go and we see that somebody has left a new ticket, and they say that something's broken. Before we can even go in and fix it, we see that there's already a PR for this, and we review it, run tests, and merge. That is heavenly. And as someone who used to be on call, as someone who used to be the only engineer, it feels so good to have an extra pair of eyes so I can spend less time doing the work that is fixed, that I shouldn't be doing as a founder, and spend more time actually growing my business. So, AI, again, is leverage. Because of AI, small founders, small teams are able to do so much more than you historically could. So use it. I highly recommend spending a week, spending 2 weeks setting up all these workflows and getting super familiar with AI if you aren't already. And yeah, once you do, I promise you, you're going to find so many opportunities to grow faster, not just in products and engineering, which is what everybody uses it for, but even across your sales, your marketing, your customer success, your retention. That's all you need to do. So thank you so much. I've come to the end of my slides. Yeah, thanks a ton for listening. Now let's move on to Q&A.
Yeah, thanks for that. Sorry, we have some construction work going on behind me here, so we'll try and close the window here and make it a bit quieter. No, Wilson, thank you so much for that. There was like so much gold in there, and yeah, just before we kind of dive into the Q&A, yeah, like first of all, thank you for that. I was just pinging everybody in our in our Slack, being like, we need to do this. No, we need to do this too. We need to, you know. So that's I think a pretty really shows how much value you provided. Yeah, I think as well. Yeah, if anybody obviously is on the call, and this will all be, you know, in an email kind of at the end of the session, we'll share the slides, and we'll also of course share a link to FernDesk. So obviously, you know, Wilson has been, you know, really gracious with his time here. So yeah, if you are interested in FernDesk or using the product or checking out or trying it out, yeah, definitely go and give it a try. And yeah, hopefully it's really helpful for you guys. So yeah, in terms of then the questions, so first one was from Jared, which was back about 15 minutes ago. So I'm gonna kick off with that one. Question was, how is leveraging AI for all of this affected your expenses? So basically labor versus AI software. Do you monitor token usage and cost of these flows compared to what hiring team members would have been? Is that kind of the way you think about it? It's a really good question.
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. I think in our case, it's a bit hard to measure just because our product is AI based and it's AI first. So a lot of our AI costs are amalgamated. That being said, if I had to estimate, it's probably somewhere between $200 and $400 a month, which is relatively high. That being said, for the time it saves, it honestly feels like such a steal right now. And the way that I
Mhm.
use AI, or at least I pay for AI, isn't by connecting directly to the APIs. It's by paying for a subscription on Cloud Code, and Codex are the things that I currently main. And I believe I'm paying $200 for Codex as well as $100 for Cloud Code. And those tools have been pretty much enough for me. For my OpenClaw setup in particular, I just use my Codex subscription. And even with this GitHub action, the one that automatically fixes my bugs, I use a Codex subscription. And honestly, I've gotten so much mileage out of it. One thing that I should flag as well is the fact that Codex recently just halved their limits. There was a 2 times promo, I think, going on for like 6 months or something. And now that has been halved. So yeah, my historic usage may not be the same as what it would look like today. But yeah, to answer that question, yeah, it's all subscription based. I'm not counting tokens, and it's much easier for me.
So even just to piggyback off of that question, because it is a great question. how many, if you were trying to build this company, let's say 5 years ago, so no AI, no Codex, no Cloud Code, how many employees do you think you would need in your business to do the amount of work you do today with AI?
That's a really good question. I think I probably wouldn't have built Ferndesk in the first place or built something as ambitious as Ferndesk if I didn't
Yeah.
have tools like we do today. And the reason why is because we're in such a competitive industry. We're building something from scratch and we need feature parity with all of our competitors, or at least the ones that we care about. And doing all of this would have required funding. I think we would have needed
Mhm.
a much bigger team, probably at least two engineers other than myself, and as well
Mhm.
as somebody proper on growth. But by leveraging AI, I'm really, really proud of how far we've gone. It's been, I think, 6 or 7 months since we started, and already we get customers who think that, yeah, we've been in business for years at this point, and we're like a team of 10 just because of how well we've been able to execute. So, yeah, great question.
Um, Next question, and they're flying in, so we're going to have to maybe do a little bit of a quick fire around here. A question then from Bill. So you mentioned that we should define our ICP using three paying customers. With B2B, what strategies did you use to get your first customers in the first place before even defining your ICP?
That's a great question. So in our case, I already had an extensive network from my first company that I had built over 3.5 years. So I think three of my early customers were people who had followed me on LinkedIn or had already subscribed to Senja and already knew just how high quality of a product it was and knew that I could build something similar to that. For those customers, it was extremely hands-on. So it wasn't self-service. I was literally hand-holding each customer and listening to their feedback, getting them on calls. And in fact, I probably paid them as much as I spent or they spent on the product itself, just because their early feedback was critical. That being said, if I were starting from scratch, how would I get my first customers as a B2B SaaS? That pretty much depends on who my customers are, of course, where they hang out, what the customer profile is. But the most surefire way, I guess, is just being embedded in the communities where they hang out and being some sort of authority there. I don't think there's much of there are many other ways to shortcut it. You just really have to be knowledgeable, and you really need to know these people that you're speaking with. One cool thing to mention is if you're new, getting the first couple customers is always a drag. I remember at Senja, we had been building for even 1 year before we got our first 20 customers and grew to 1,000 MRR. So yeah, it's not easy at all, but the work compounds. Once you get one, and then you get two, and then you get three, all of a sudden you're getting 5, 10, 50, and so on. So yeah, you just got to stay on the grind, I guess.
Absolutely. Cool. Then another question then in from Maria. So she said, do you have another agent to do the testing? Is it unit tests you run or automation scripts to run smoke tests or end-to-end tests?
Oh, great question. So, um, I assume one of the reasons you're asking this question is because you're technical or moderately technical or even non-technical, and you're wondering how important tests are. And I think, yeah, this is not really a hot take, but I think if you're going to do any sort of building with AI, then having tests is critical. And the reason why is you can't move fast, or these AI tools, they enable you to move so quickly that breaking things will happen 10 times more often. And having tests, even unit tests, is such an easy way to guarantee, or not guarantee, but kind of ensure that the stuff that you're building is actually not going to break as requirements change, as things change without your knowledge. So if an AI writes code and that code is, yeah, it's no longer fulfilling the contract that you had set when you first of all wrote the code, then tests are going to flag that. And yeah, for the smoke tests and end-to-end tests, I actually really, really enjoy giving agents access to end-to-end tests, especially when building out new features. I love it. And sometimes when you're on X and you're on LinkedIn, you often see people who are running agents for hours and hours on end, sometimes 8 or 12 hours, sometimes even 20 hours. And at first it seems impossible or absurd, But I guarantee 9 times out of 10, it's because the agent has some kind of feedback loop that is end to end. So one of the workflows that we use when building integrations is we have agents plug into our demo accounts and plug into the APIs and validate their code against the actual APIs. And because it has that feedback loop, it can run for hours and hours on end. And at the end of the day, build something extremely robust. When we review it, it just works. The tests, it writes them so that things don't break ongoing when without your acknowledgement, right? And so yeah, we do have tons and tons of unit tests and smoke tests, as well as end-to-end integration tests. And yeah, I absolutely recommend setting that up early.
Then Jared has another question here, just a quick one. What is the GitHub Actions link mentioned?
So that is go.ferndesk.com/autofix. Uh, the slides will be available after the call, I believe. So yeah,
Yeah,
you'll be able to find this.
perfect. Yeah, great. Yeah, as we'll send out the slides in an email after the call. So yeah, you'll have all the links, no problem at all. Roger then had a question. Would you change anything about your advice if you were building a B2C business instead of B2B?
Oh, that's a great question. And honestly, I can't answer it because I don't have enough experience. I think the last time I tried to build anything in B2C was probably 7 or 8 years ago. And I remember I failed fantastically. So, yeah, I'm probably not the right guy to ask for questions about B2C. But for sure, I doubt the principles change. You still need your ideal customer profile. You still need to nail your positioning and your messaging. And of course, all these things are absolutely transferable. But for like the core approach and like the strategy, would I use SEO or something? I don't know. I don't know. And it's worth having someone else, yeah, maybe on another masterclass.
I was going to say, I think, Roger, you've just given us an idea for our masterclass. We'll do the AI Solopreneur B2C edition next. So you leave that with us, and we'll make sure that you're the first person on the wait list for that. Great. Next question then. We have Chloe Chan. Question: we only have one customer so far. How valuable is this for setting up the ICP doc? Given sample size is one. Is synthetic customer useful, or would it cause hallucinations?
Wow. Yeah, that's a fantastic question.
They're all.
So,
I got it. They're all great
they're
questions, I
really,
have to
really interesting.
say.
So a big mistake people make when they're setting up their ICP doc is they run with the assumption that it is fixed and it cannot change. Your ICP is supposed to be fluid. As you learn new things and as requirements change, you're supposed to constantly be making edits to it as you learn more and more. So yeah, even with one customer, building an ICP from that is fantastic. As long as you take the time to really, really drill into who this customer is. If you haven't already, try to get them on a call, try to pay them. In our case, we do pay our customers to jump on calls. I think last time we did it was about $50 to $100 per call, just because as an early stage company, building these things out or building our ICP out and really understanding our positioning and who we're serving is so critical to us. So this doesn't have to be customers, by the way. It could also be people who are mirror your single customer or who are really similar to them. And I would get on that call anyway, invite them to one, and yeah, talk a bit about their problems, not even trying to get them on your products, but validate the problems that you're trying to solve. And if you haven't already, I recommend reading this book, The Mom Test. It's super popular. It will give you a really good idea of how you should speak with these customers. So yeah, absolutely set up your ICP. Honestly, looking back, I would be paralyzed. I wouldn't be able to build anything if I hadn't at least written something down, especially given how important context is to AI agents now. So yeah, take the time to write that out.
Very, very nice. Um, And then Chloe actually had another question as well. What's your mindset around competitors with big funding and high marketing budgets? How do you prioritize what to focus on?
Great. Yeah, I'm tired of getting told questions, but they're all great questions. So, and
They really are.
yeah, to be honest, I really try not to look at competitors. And the reason why is we're in such a competitive industry that if we were to take a look at anybody else building side by side, we'd probably get depressed and shut everything down just because everybody's doing so well. Everybody's building such cool stuff. But the mindset that we have is even if we take out a microscopic chunk of a market, we would still build a really huge, really successful company. So even if we're only able to serve, in our case, our pricing is somewhere between $39 and $99 a month. So even if we were able to serve 1,000 customers really, really well, then we would have an incredible company. And because of that, we really just try to take care of a few customers that we have and really drill into their problems. So we don't dictate our roadmap by anything that competitors are doing. We only really look inward at our customers. We look at what they say on sales calls, what their objections were to signing up as well. And we use all of that to build out our roadmap.
Awesome. Really, really good. Anthony then had some questions as well. How important is digital marketing and design, and how do you create assets like the Fern logo?
Oh, so come again. I didn't get that question.
Sorry. So how important is digital marketing and design, and how do you create assets like the Fern logo?
Oh, great. So yeah. so so the Fern logo, it's interesting, right? We had we did pay designers to come up with some concept art for the logo, and unfortunately, nothing was that good or as good as we wanted it to be. But then I just pumped a ton of concept sketches and a ton of ideas into, I think it was Nano Banana Pro at the time, and it created a logo, and that's what we're currently using today. For what it's worth, I'm still not that content with the logo, and it is subject to change in the future. But for getting started, it was fantastic. And hopefully, once we are a lot bigger and we can justify it, we'll do a branding refresh. For how important design is, honestly, right now, I think it's so important. And the reason why is just because in the age where everybody is able to pump out products extremely quickly, only two things or a couple things, right, are really good differentiators, and that's design. Design is one of them. There are a ton of times I'm going to use other products or pick other products over competitors, right? Just because they're better designed and they're easier to work with and they're easier to navigate around. And yeah, now that software is so cheap, it's I wouldn't say inexcusable, but it is, yeah, it's a bit ridiculous to not spend a little more time polishing. So the time that would have been spent just creating these features and bringing them to life, yeah, that time can absolutely be spent polishing the design. And if you look through Ferndesk, we do spend a ton of time just trying to make sure that everything looks fantastic. Uh, we probably have spent just as much time designing and polishing and refining as we have actually building. And that's just because, yeah, I strongly believe that design is critical now. And then regarding, I think there was one more question or one more thing that was asked.
So main question was, yeah, how important is digital marketing and design, and how do you create assets like the Fern logo? I think that's, yeah, I think
Yeah.
you've pretty well covered that overall. And then he was also asked about where does your ICP document live? So Google Docs, GitHub, and how often are you updating it?
A great question. And this is funny because it's kind of a plug for Ferndesk. But believe it or not, we're using Ferndesk for our internal documentation as well. And of course, if you look here, that's where our ICP document lives. And of course, all of this is kind of public. I talk about it publicly. And if you want to just grab our ICP document, shoot me an email at wilson@friendesk.com. We're happy to share. We do everything in public anyway. Regarding how often we update it, oh, so this is another cool thing I didn't talk about, but Ferndesk actually has a Chrome extension. And we use our Chrome extension to make quick refinements to our SOPs and our ICPs on the go. So when we learn new things, or when we learn, yeah, we have an interesting call with a customer, or we have a thought that we believe needs to be cataloged or documented somewhere, we just open up the Chrome extension, select the text, and then send it to Fern, and then yeah, she's able to turn that into actual documentation. So yeah, we update it pretty frequently. I think probably at least a couple times a month.
Yeah, that is the most organic plug of a product I think I've ever seen in my life. You really nailed that. Um, Other than very quick one here from Jennifer, Svelte Kit or Next.js?
Yeah, I love Svelte. I don't have strong thoughts about Next.js. All I know is that everybody's moving away from it to other frameworks like TanStack just because they're less bloated. But the reason I love Svelte is just because of the kind of product we're building. Svelte makes it really easy to design beautiful products because it has a ton of utilities for micro animations and it really gets out of your way when you're building UI. I just love Svelte. I've used it for, I think, even 7 years now. And yeah, I can't use anything. One more thing I would say is frameworks matter a lot less now. As long as you've got a really good agent and the framework is able to get out of their way, they can go a long shot. They can go a really long way without you having to, actually touch the framework.
Amazing. Then Mohammed also asked, so as a solo founder running everything, what's the top 1 to 3 systems or habits that have had the biggest impact on your output?
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
it's a wonderful question. We need more adjective. We need a thesaurus here for great.
So, yeah, I think, yeah, if I could say anything, there's one habit that was super critical in the early days. And it's what propelled our growth. It's what gave us all of our momentum. And it was just showing up weekly. So every week, we would create new product. We would talk about that product. We would create content for that product. And we would announce that product all within the same week and then show up and do it again. So we set Thursday as our launch day, and every day or every week we would sprint to complete that entire cycle and get it done, regardless of how the business was growing at the time. So regardless of whether we were getting customers or not, we just really, really focused and locked in on doing all of that. Because my strong opinion after working for 3.5 years at Senja, especially when for a long period of time there was no growth, is you've just got to be super consistent. You've got to define where you're going to go or where you want to go and then show up every single week to get there. And yeah, that's literally the top thing that has helped and continues to help. We've kind of slowed down on it a bit and we're now releasing only twice or once every 2 weeks. But we do plan to ramp things up again in the future.
Perfect. I think we have 2 more questions, and I think we might call it then because Wilson, you've been very, very generous with your time, but you have a business to run here, so we'll respect that. Um, I mean, the most important question here, definitely from Roger. Uh, who or what designed the pixel art in your slides?
Yeah, great question. It's Mid
That is a
Journey.
really good question.
It's Mid Journey. So
Okay,
yeah, we use
nice, nice,
Mid
nice,
Journey
nice.
for our pixel art, and if you go to our blog, I think we have a ton of really beautiful, yeah, pixel art. I just love pixel art. It's the entire aesthetic and vibe I wanted for Ferndesk, and being able to like incorporate that throughout the entire website is something I'm really really happy about.
Very, very cool. Very, very cool. And then Mohammed also asked, when you were validating your SaaS idea, how did you know there was enough demand before writing a single line of code? What did that validation look like?
Okay, so in my case, I think building Ferndesk was more of an experiment at the time than an actual business. Um, we it was a problem that we had at Senja, my last company, and I wanted to build something that solved that problem. So the validation came from my own pain at the company, and I worked really hard for many many months to get a solution in place. That solution has changed over time. Even now, it continues to change and get better and better. But the biggest validation hasn't even been the product itself. It's been the pain. When I launched Ferndesk, it was in closed beta, and I just posted this tweet where I was talking about like what I was building and what I plan to build, and the messaging really, really resonated. Everybody hates docs, and nobody wants to write them. Everybody hates having to sit down and type out how the things you've built already work. And yeah, I just ran on that assumption. And over time, that has proven to be more and more true. One thing I will say as well is I did give myself 6 months to figure things out because a big problem that people, or a big mistake rather, that people make, especially first time founders, is thinking that their first idea or whatever they start building is going to be a hit, even after they've spent time validating it. From my experience, that's almost never the case. In fact, it's the exception, not the rule. Most of the time, once you build products and launch it, it's going to take many months or even years before you get any semblance of traction. So I gave myself 6 months, 7 months to just sit down and figure things out. And thankfully, I was able to figure things out in much shorter time than I initially expected. And yeah, we're now building it full time and plan to grow it to 1 million.
Very nice. Very, very nice. Very, very last question. This one's for me. So I'm expecting a great question response here. Otherwise, I will not be happy. No, one last question for me is assuming, let's say someone's watching this and maybe they're like non-technical, and they want to kind of just get started and kind of start dipping their toes into Claude Code, Codex, OpenClaw, et cetera. How would you kind of recommend someone who just wants to kind of get started? How should they approach it?
Ooh, great. Um, I think for me, the way I learned coding wasn't by taking large courses or um, by having mentors or any of that. It was by actually doing and getting into the weeds and actually trying to build things. When you use these AI coding tools or similar, as you try to build things and as you try to get closer to the goal that you've set for yourself, you will start to pick things up along the way. And here's the great thing, the AI can coach you as well. I'm not sure how great these tools are now. I don't think it's possible to be completely or give the AI complete, liberty to do whatever it wants. Obviously, I think that's closer to the territory of vibe coding, and I don't think that is a thing right now. But I do think that it's possible with even a little technical know-how and a little reading up and a little practice to be able to figure these things out on the go. So yeah, in terms of time, I can't say. All I know is I have a fantastic anecdote from someone who I never believed would be able to do it, which was my co-founder. Right, he's super talented, super non-technical, and never wanted to write a line of code. Yet he managed to build an entire website, deploy it on his own with just Claude Code. And yeah, if he can do it, then anyone can, really. So yeah, I'm sure you
I'm
can.
sure he'd love that sentiment. It's like if he can do it, absolutely anybody can do it. I'm sure he'd
Yeah,
be delighted to hear
yeah.
that. No, thank you so much for that, Wilson. No, that was incredibly helpful, and yeah, there was so much gold in there. So yeah, I think as we kind of said, we will send out the slides in an email to everybody afterwards. I'll do that straight away. Um, Wilson, I'm sure if people want to learn more about FernDesk, or if they have any questions about the platform or anything, are they okay to reach out to you? I know your email is on the the thing here. Is that okay with you?
Absolutely. So you can message me at wilson@ferndesk.com, or you can reach out to me on Twitter, where you're more likely to get a response from me if you email me. And yeah, we can take things from there.
Amazing. Sounds great. Yeah, once again, thank you so much, Wilson. Thanks everybody for joining. And yeah, I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye,
Thanks
everyone.
everybody. Take care. Bye bye.